Welcome back, everybody, to the Service to the Sacred Summit. I'm here with Katie Burke, the creator of the Modern Priestess Movement, who've been such a huge catalyst and inspiration in my life. Thank you for being here, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you, and today we're going to be talking about a topic pretty new to me, but near and dear to my heart. Sexuality as spiritual technology and service to the sacred.
Yes.
So if you don't know Katie, she is a revolutionary. She is teaching from this really deep place of connection. And Katie, I'm just so excited to see what you have to share with us on this topic. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about what has driven you to start talking about this.
Sure. I think I realized that, just in my own healing, in my own awakening, in my own deepening, that's the word, in my own deepening into myself, I realized that my sexuality needed to be very much, just as much at the forefront as some of the other aspects of my being that I step into on such a regular basis. So mothering, my meditation, just my connection, my sexuality, the way that I show up for relationships, it just needed, for me, it needed to be pushed up to the front with everything else I was putting up at the front as well. And it just felt like a little bit of a missing piece for me. So after my daughter was born, after I started to feel, probably about maybe 4 to 6 months after she was born, I started to feel that sexual energy just start to come back for me. I think it was around that time. And it came back so powerfully. It had just, it had been absent from my life for a few months or longer. I don't remember the time frame exactly, but it just kind of came rushing back in. And then I kind of had this remembering of, oh, right, this is important. This is really juicy. And I had deepened after giving birth, you're a different person. So I almost just needed to get to know my sexuality all over again. And so, so my partner, Ben, and I just went on this journey together. And really for both of us, we're clearing a lot of ideas that we had about sexuality. I was starting to research Tantra that felt good for me. There's a lot, the word Tantra kind of opens up a whole can of worms, and there's a lot of different approaches to, or definitions, or there's just a lot there, I think, to unpack. But what felt good for me really came to what I was finding. My gosh, I don't know. There's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to really start. Yeah. But when I started just research, like the more book kind of research for this, I realized that there's so much that I could go if I really wanted to learn about Tantra, and the amount of time that I had to really kind of explore this, which is not, let's just be honest, like the amount of time that we can create like very sacred private containers for ourselves and like really explore our sexuality, so I kind of, I did a little bit of reading, but I really went for it experientially and started to work with my own energy. So my journey with this started, I felt very guided to actually work on this solo and to pleasure myself, to put myself in situations that I could have the time to really just feel my own sexual energy, and where does it go? How does it course through my body? Where, what happens energetically to me when I orgasm? Like all of these, I just started to get into all of the subtle places of myself and feel, is there a place that's blocked? Is there a place that's, is my right side of the body feeling different than the left side of my body? And all of these things. So I just started very curiously approaching this with a lot of innocence and a lot of just, and always coming back to reminding myself that it's such an innocent and pure, that's the word. That is the word that my guidance was giving me over and over and over again on this journey, is the purity of our sexual nature. And it always, that word for me is like a lightning bolt. It's just, it washes over me and reminds me. It's such a potent word when we talk about our sexual energy. So that word purity and the color white really kept coming back over and over again as I would be just practicing alone, practicing this tantric energy or this kundalini energy, or with my partner. That was my gateway word to just reminding myself that there's nothing to be ashamed of, because I could feel myself really clearing a lot of shame in this journey too. A lot of programming, that just things that I had even forgotten that I experienced, or, so it was a very, very healing journey personally. And then, connecting with that word purity and the innocence of that really started to infuse into the rest of my life, and brought a lot of lightness and just a lot more energy, a lot more permission giving. So that's kind of all of it in a, kind of a brief overview, I guess. But there's so much to explore and to talk about with our spiritual technology within our physical bodies. And, some of us have stronger connections to different technology than others, and that's so beautiful. And I know that's true for me. Like there would be things that I just realized for me were just easier to access than maybe other qualities, or, so, so that's my personal journey, I guess, at an overview with exploring this topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. The word purity really sinks in deeply for me as well, which I think is directly paradoxical to what we have been taught purity means for a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So maybe you can say a little bit about like that paradigm shift with female sexuality and awakening the divine feminine, like from that place of sexuality being pure. Not virginity, for example.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So this really sank in with me when this has been a big theme, obviously, and it's all of these really major lessons for me. And this was just most recently, I had this moment with my relationship with money, is that my guides just kept reminding me, look to the earth and look to Gaia, and how does she do this? How does she express herself sexually? How does she express herself abundantly? How does she express herself in these different ways? And so for me, I just talked about this and posted a video about it, where my relationship to abundance was recalibrated really quickly when I could look to the earth as my teacher and see, how does she produce and create so abundantly when she's balanced. And so when there's no interference and she's left to just do her thing, and so that was the same case in when I was exploring my sexuality. I really felt like a young girl again, who was out playing in nature and just exploring just curiously looking around or curiously just discovering what is there to be discovered. And so that was how I started to view myself. And I would even, give this visual, or like heal the parts of myself that were really, I felt like I went through my sexual awakening at a pretty young age. And I feel like a lot of awake women kind of, people who are awakening now and have this really deep connection to their sexuality being really intertwined with their spirit. Like I've heard a lot of women say things like, you know, when I'm having sex is when I feel the most connected, or when I'm orgasming, that's when I've felt the most connected to myself or to God. And for me, my sexual awakening started, I don't know, maybe at the age of like 12 or 13, when I started to like feel that energy like burning and starting to rise up and want to like wake me up into womanhood. So I thought a lot about myself at that age, and just putting myself in that place and just reminding myself that it's okay to feel your feelings, and for these it's okay, they're allowed. So there was a lot of like mothering as those fears would come up, as those you know, just kind of guiding my inner young girl into being comfortable with this energy and being able to embrace this much energy coursing through your body and exploring it and doing it in a really safe way. So there was, you know, that kind of self-healing and self-talk was a huge part of this. And going to the parts of myself when I first remember that, you know, those age of puberty, when things start changing and you just start waking up in a sexual way. So I went back to there, and then kind of worked through like all of those years and all of the stories that I would tell myself after an experience, or that I was being told directly or subtly by the environment around me, and just clearing it, and just knowing who I am and who I was at that time, and just giving myself permission to step even more into it and forgive myself. Forgiveness is a huge, I did a talk about this locally, and almost for the last 15 or 20 minutes of the gathering, it was very clear that what wanted to come through for everyone in the room is this piece about forgiveness. Forgiving ourselves for, it mostly all comes back to forgiving ourselves, but forgiving ourselves, forgiving others who have manipulated us sexually, when we've manipulated others with our sexual power. It's definitely something I had to look at and think about. Have, you know, the times that I've manipulated men with my sexual energy and wanted to get what I want out of a situation, and would lean into my sexual energy to do so. So there was a lot of forgiveness and a lot of soothing and a lot of acceptance, and just cooling it, you know. I'm just pouring some water on it and just washing it away, you know, just that beautiful like Kuan Yin compassion of just like pouring water on the situation until it's clean and pure, and that is so ingrained into feeling really clean and pure. And I'm not at a perfect place with this yet. There's still it's been interesting now being pregnant again, how now there's like even different aspects of my sexuality that it's like it's okay for me to not be sexual, or to, you know. So it was like I kind of I'm going through the whole spectrum of like all of my feelings with sex right now, in these past 2.5 years, I guess, is because this has been something that I knew as soon as I could, for me, as soon as I could step into this really comfortably, a lot of other things were going to feel really comfortable too. So a lot of other aspects of my life, I was just going to feel more confident if I could gain the self-respect and so many other really divine qualities that I see in the priestess archetype. I think I just decided to go like head on into one of the most, is corrupt the right word? Like into one of the places, the most taboo. If I could do this and start here and clear everything that needed to be cleared here, that second chakra, that really feeling like I can take up space, then everything else was just gonna, it just starting at those earth chakras and then really working our way up, which is how our feminine energy flows anyway. So kind of in that Taurus kind of spiral. So that's where I needed to really, really go deep in these past few years. And it's put me on a really accelerated path, I would say. So that was a little bit of a tangent away from your question, but I think getting, the word purity in a more virginal sense. I feel Mother Mary really strongly right now too, because she's been put in that box, right? Like the Virgin Mary. And that's not how, and I'm actually just opened myself up to working with her much more strongly and, or much more in a much more devoted way. And it's really upsetting to my innocence and my connection to her and what I know of her and her fierce love and how she is so, that word purity, it could have very well have been given to me from her. And as that divine comforting mother coming in and saying, oh, sweetheart, you are perfect to feel all of these feelings, no matter where you are in societal standards for being it's acceptable or not. So I think we'll start to see her name and her energy be, I hope, my prayer is that it will be very much rewritten in this awakening that's happening. Because that's not how I see her. And so I feel her kind of coming through and also just wanting to ease the hearts and work with the hearts of all of these women with any sort of shaming around sexuality. And then again, and Mary Magdalene is wonderful for that as well. But Mother Mary is equally, she's got that mother bear energy that can really come in and help that inner mother that we all have, really soothe those parts of ourselves that need to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Katie, so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you were saying about forgiveness. I'm glad we went on that tangent.
Okay.
Because that word has been coming up for me a lot as well. And Mother Mary has come through in a really big way about my own sexual shame. And the word forgiveness for me is really teaching me when I forgive myself, that is forgiving more of myself to others.
Yes.
And being able to show up so completely in who I am in all of my fullness and my fertility and my abundance and what I'm birthing into this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I, from just the little I know about the connection between Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, is that Mother Mary completely set that up. She was yes, you need to come into sexual union. Yes, you need to do this so that you can create this new paradigm and create that spark. So, I just I'm I don't know. I just feel like I'm melting and I'm just this such softness, in that knowing of that forgiveness was key for you, and it's key for all of us, in creating this new world, really. So maybe you can say a little bit about how the sexual awakening of women pushing through that shame or softening through that shame is actually birthing a new world.
Well, it sets you up to really start understanding how much you deserve in the bedroom, when that starts to be cleared, you start to really, I did this. I'm just going to speak for my story. I started to really understand that I deserve in like an incredible partner in, you know, to be with me sexually. So it was like, and luckily my partner was so ready to like meet me with what I needed. And he was like, totally like, yes, let's do that. Let's, you know, take it there. And that's going to probably be different for everyone. But for me, when I could forgive myself, and when I could start to feel like the worthiness that comes from getting through forgiveness, and the love and everything that opens up to you, and going through that. And forgiveness, I just want to be really clear with, it can be as simple as just not allowing those experiences to interfere at all with your present moment and future self, or, you know, your present self and future self. So we don't need, you know, it's not, and I think that this is clear. It feels like this is clear with, you know, people who are listening to this call, but that was something I just had to remind myself at times, that it doesn't mean that this person needs to be accepted back into my life, or that I need to reach out to them and have a conversation. No, that didn't need to happen. This was all something that I just needed to align in myself, and just know that trauma, and there's many different, you know, levels of trauma. It doesn't need to influence my decisions now and my decisions going forward at all. And so then it's like you have this really fresh perspective and these new eyes to see yourself, and these, you know, you're starting to feel the energy in your body in a different way. And that means you're probably going to want a partner who can meet you there, and not only meet you there, but like also create such sacred space for you to explore even deeper. That's why I mentioned that, you know, I started this just in my own self-pleasure, because I needed it to just feel like really clear for me, on like, what is this just with me? Like, what is my sexual energy? And when it's just me, and then kind of taking that to my, you know, and then showing up in different ways and evolving together. So that was the gift that blossoms from doing that work, is that I could clearly set my standards. I could articulate what it is that I desired, in a way, both emotionally, physical, on every level. So it wasn't just physical, but I could explain my spiritual needs, my emotional needs, my physical needs. All of these different needs were coming through me with more clarity, and was really helpful for my husband, because as women, when we're talking to men, that kind of really that clarity is very, very helpful for them. They, you know, when they have to kind of navigate through just the feelings, it's just not as direct, and you can just make a lot more progress a lot more quickly if you can just be so super clear with them. And so it really was wonderful for us, because for a while, I think, you know, that didn't come overnight. He was like trying to read me energetically and emotionally, and I didn't really I still was kind of blocked in some ways of really just being able to get it out. And so that was the, you know, the beautiful like blossoming that could come, and even just start to open up even fuller and deeper between us, by doing that work, and kind of just practicing it solo for a little while was a good way for me to start. Yeah.
It really is like up to us, you know.
I think so.
If we're going to think that our partner can do this thing for us, that's probably not going to be as effective as like how you're showing up. And I really appreciate you sharing, like, it's not just about like learning how physically, like this physical technology works with our sexuality. It's about the emotional piece and like undoing the knots and the shame. And that part about like be specific, be specific about what you need. Thank you so much for that. A prayer that I have for women is that when they do speak, and they do get clear, that they do have someone there, man or woman or whatever, that can say like, yes, I want to see you open. I want to see you open into that.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that's a really deep prayer for me, like to have the masculine counterpart just be able to say like, yes, my purpose is to witness you open. And hold that.
Yeah, I had to, personally, I had to kind of rewrite the script that I had in mind, because for a while at the beginning, I was telling myself like, I don't know if this is possible. I don't know if he can show up for me. And so I had to make that prayer as well. I had to know that this was possible. There was part of me at the beginning of this journey that didn't think that it was. And it is, so this goes really, really, for me, it went really deeply to, the self-talk that was happening and how many blocks I was putting in front of myself. How many ways was I trying to keep myself in that place of I'm alone and I'm suffering and I can't connect with someone so deeply sexually. So that was something at the beginning. And I have a very, supportive partner, but there was a small part of me that was just like, he's not going to get this. And then once I realized I was telling myself that and manifesting that situation, I had to check myself and say, no, he's in power. Like, we can do this together. So I just say that in case, because I didn't even realize that voice was really there, for a little while. And so I completely agree. It is very much, there's a lot that felt like it was up to me to do that, to really check in with myself. And what am I projecting on him? And what am I telling him he's capable of or not capable of? And when I changed that script and I started being his biggest cheerleader and my biggest cheerleader for this, to be everything I wanted it to be, it was like, that really helped take it to another level for us.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I saw you write something, just like a blip in my memory about white light empowerment through your sexual journey. And can you speak to that a little bit? I was like, what's that?
Yeah. That was, for me, that was and this was not with my partner, Ben. This was when I was by myself. And I felt complete. That was, for me, I think the first time my Kundalini channels completely opened up and ran the course through my body and out my crown. And I felt so electrically anchored into the earth. And simultaneously, like, I felt like my light body was just being like totally stretched in both directions. I started to take up more space. And as that energy rose up through my head, it was almost, I laughed. I mean, it just, at the time I kind of laughed because it was like doves made way for that vision of white light, and knowing that how powerful it is when someone says, I'm sending you like love and light. If it is that light, I will take that all day long. I mean, that light that I experienced was really the purity that I was being told is there. And so that is what I found is like, that is why we're sexual. It's for that connection. It's not so much about the orgasm. That's great. Orgasms are amazing and they can totally and, expand our field and strengthen our field. And that's a really important part of our technology. But that connection to breaking through, and that's the best way I know how to put it. It was like this full place of surrender to where also some of the thoughts or the knowings that were happening at that time was an understanding that space and time are not what we perceive them to be. So that was kind of being downloaded simultaneously as I accessed this light. So the light held a lot of information for me that just kind of like integrated as I could just enjoy the bliss of that light, and just a lot of memories opened up, a lot of the lesson of purity was just being so anchored in after that. And something I was shown in that particular experience, that white light experience, was how clearing an orgasm, our sexual energy, can be before we sit down to write or to channel, because it really clears our energy field and gets us completely bathing in our own essence, in our own electromagnetic field. That was another lesson I took away from that, is really seeing priestesses of another age. I don't even know what time frame to even put on that, but dressed in all white, experiencing like the bliss of an orgasm, and then going into these oracle states, because they're so clear after that, after feeling so cared for and being able to express themselves sexually. That connection to the divine is just, it's really powerful. It's really powerful at that point. So that's what I mean by our bodies as spiritual technology, kind of fine-tuning them and taking those steps to where you can reach, and this is not something that happens to me all of the time. I feel like I just want to make that clear. I'm that is a prayer. I will take this as often as I can, but this does take, it takes devotion and creating really sacred space for yourself to be able to engage with your own higher self and with a partner in this way. And I could see how the masculine's role is equally important in that, and just the strength that can come in to really support and hold a woman who is going through that kind of connection, and they're having their own experience as well. So it was a really, really special experience that showed me the possibilities of where we can take our sexual energy. It was really, it was life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to thank you for that, and just kind of highlight how much work you did on your own, to be able to be in that process with yourself, without it being results oriented. Because we can kind of get into this, I can get into this place of I want to be able to have this different kind of orgasm. So for women who maybe are inorgasmic, at this time, to know that this is actually really about process and not about the end, because I think that's what Tantra really is, and not just sexual Tantra, but any practices we're doing, it's about stepping into that with devotion to not to have a result, but to connect,
exactly
that connection. And hearing that the work you did really allowed you to open up to a much higher connection than typical for you in that practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out, because that's something now that I guess I almost take for granted in a way, is that it's not about the physical release of an orgasm so much anymore. When I'm talking about this, it's really not. And an orgasm is, if you can get yourself to this relaxed state where you're just focused on the connection, I do feel like an orgasm comes just as a natural part of that experience. And that's my experience now, but there's not a focus on, which is how I used to engage with my partner. I used to
like
very
a
much,
performance, right? Like,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. And that is, yeah, I'm feeling a huge sense of like, oh, relief that's not really it anymore. It's just like, let me have this time to connect with my partner, with myself, with the two of us coming together. That's another really beautiful, and I think that this is talked about in the Magdalene manuscript. I'm pretty sure it is the Horus, where you have, you know, it doesn't have to be a man and a woman, but there's typically the female energy and the masculine energy coming together, creating that polarity, and from it creates a third energy called the Horus. And so that creating that Horus, it can be very amplified with an orgasm, but that's more the focus now. It's like when I'm engaging with my partner Ben, it's like I want to feed that. I want to feed the relationship, this third entity that I can tap into when we aren't together. It's almost like an angel. It's like a guide in itself that is created from two people really, really coming together intentionally, and feeding that, you know, feeding the Horus, feeding that energy. And that is really important to me right now. And especially, and I'll just say, you know, being pregnant, that has become more of the focus, where that feels really sacred and really special. And I'm not quite as focused on having, and there's nothing, go for the orgasm if that's like what you need. But yeah, but just where I'm at in this like third trimester place, it's like, I just want that connection right now. And I know that it's kind of my body preparing me, right? Because you give birth and then there's some space between, you know, engaging sexually. So it's kind of, there's this like nice, I know it's kind of a particular situation to be in, but there's kind of this like fadening, and you just, you know, and then you go through the portal of birth, and then your body kind of comes, and then it's, you know, and it's such a cycle. But I'm definitely at that point in the cycle now where like an orgasm doesn't, I don't know, there's nothing really so exciting about it for me right now, where I'm at as we're recording this. So it's okay to go through your own cycles, and I know there will be, you know, we could have this conversation a year from now, and and it would be a very different energy around that. But anyways, just wherever, whoever's listening to this, wherever you are with what your sexual needs are, it's okay. So, yeah. And if you want the multiple orgasms and like all of that, I still think this is a really good way to get there, focusing on the connection to yourself and that connection with your partner and the energy that you guys are building.
Yeah. For anyone listening, I mean, for myself, I, you know, have been pretty, I don't want to say shut down sexually. I'm like, I've been a sexual being since birth. And that I expressed a lot when I was young, and like dancing in these ways. My mom would be like in public, like, I didn't teach her to do that. I didn't teach her to do that. So yeah, there's that shame piece, you know, in the beginning. But that the more I connected to myself, and especially like the white light, like in me, through meditation and other things, like the more it had shown up for me sexually. To the point where, like, yeah, it used to just be a performance. It used to just be like, with manipulation or wanting out love from outside of myself, and now it's this place where it's like I find that my womb is like the creator of the universe, and like it can happen really fast is what I'm saying. For people listening, that like it can, like once you dive into this and do that work within yourself, like the acceleration, I think that's the word that you used. You've been on an accelerated path.
I think that's a good word for it too, because That's exactly what it feels like. It can be very accelerated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to go back to what you were saying about the earth and the kind of looking to her for guidance about sexuality and fertility and vitality. That's something that I've noticed for myself, that like when I contact those places, like I feel more vital and I feel more creative, and I feel like I'm in a more giving space for others. And I didn't really make that connection. Like, we know that the earth is the symbol for abundance and fertility and sexuality and her creation, but I just really appreciated that piece.
Oh yeah, that's complete. I feel like I need, so that is, if you've worked with the Ascended Master Isis, one of her master teachers was Gaia. And that is very much, I feel like when sometimes I turn to my guide Isis and I'm like, I don't know what to do here. I don't, it's like a business decision or something in my relationship. And every once in a while she'll just be like, turn your ear to the earth and just pay attention. How does she do it? And then it just totally puts me in more of a feminine place to receive that wisdom. It's so beautiful. So yeah, it's a really beautiful shortcut to when you're just too much in your head, right? It's like trying to figure it out. And then I look outside and just realize I just need to go sit out there for 10 minutes and I'm going to come back a different person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that, Katie.
Welcome.
The shortcut. I feel like it's like the secret that's like always been there, But,
I know. Keep forgetting. I need to be reminded all day. Stay with her for a little while. You're going to feel better. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what kind of message do you have for women who maybe are hearing this and thinking like, "Wow, that has never happened to me. I've never had a white light empowerment, and I'm maybe not even orgasmic or not in a partnership." Like, what wisdom would you offer?
This was so all of this is like from a lot of time, right? So sometimes, that absolutely can be accelerated. Once you say yes to anything, you can be on such an accelerated path. But at the same time, this has been and continues to be such a journey. And this is not the first time, it's maybe second time, because I did, kind of speak about this locally, but I'm just putting a few of these things together. It's so be so gentle, like along with the pure, like remind yourself how pure you are, but like also like the gentleness that comes with that reminder is so important. I mean, the word gentle was probably my one of the biggest mantras as I was going through this, like not to get frustrated, not to be discouraged. And the more I did that, the more I could feel myself moving forward. So just be so gentle with wherever you are is totally great. And then I think having opening up to some women around you about what you're doing and having someone to talk to can be really, like having a friend to really get vulnerable and honest and have a conversation about a spiritual, sexual awakening can really speed things along as well. So somebody that can see you in like another woman who can see you in your process is incredibly validating, and is so, the gentleness, and then also the sisterhood piece, because I know how many women are hungry for this. So so find the woman who can, be your support and help remind you how worthy you are of that journey.
Yeah, it's like you have to do it alone, but you don't have to do it alone.
Exactly. It's like you will do it alone, but you don't, but you won't. And it's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's something I wish I would have opened that. I even had shame about like sharing this with some of my friends and how, because it feels like I'm going so deep, right? It's like, oh, I feel like yes, my prayer is I want to experience, what did Mary Magdalene and Yeshua experience? That's my prayer. I want to know. And I have a right, like, that's a valid prayer. And I think at first I just had some shame or guilt around how much I was asking for. And, you know, so I wish I would have just reached out to my friend sooner and shared what's really going on with me. Because it can, especially in the beginning, it was taking up a lot of my mental chatter and a lot of just what's going on. Is there, you know, am I doing this correct? You know, am I doing this right? And just a lot of those questions. And it's so natural. And that's why the gentleness is really important. Just anything that's coming up is allowed. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Katie, this has been great.
Yeah.
So many key pieces, and like then in the final, like let's look outside and see like the earth is making love with itself right now.
Yes.
And we can do that too. And that's the most beautiful permission. And yeah, Katie, I just want to thank you so much for beginning to open up about this topic and to share with me and to share with people watching. I see you as someone really opening up to these different parts of yourself, and like that in itself is activism, you know, service to the sacred. And yeah, I just deep bow to you, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to share with us anything about what you're up to, or anything at all?
Yeah, well, Ben and I are actually just starting. So we've been leading meditation together, side by side, where we hold space as like a masculine and kind of feminine like anchor in the room. And from that, so as we've gone into this and just started to kind of share it a little bit, I get a lot of questions about my, like some specifics with my partnership. So we decided to create, we are doing a course. It's 2 months, and each month will have very separate topics. So the first month will be if your partnership is, if you're really feeling unseen in it, like you guys aren't meeting each other. And I was in that partnership for a long time. There was just, I was waking up really quickly and he wasn't, you know, and I wish he was here to speak about this, but I feel like I can speak for him where, you know, but then, you know, so we went through that journey together of he accelerated and then I, you know, and so it's kind of a balance. And then the second month is going deeper, right? You both kind of have the same belief systems, the same core values, you know what it is you want, and going on that journey together. So, so that's something that we're offering just because locally we were getting a lot of requests for something like that, but it will be online. So you can find that through my website. And then most recently, I've really just been engaged. I am a busy mom, and I'm just really just engaging with my Instagram platform as much as I can and getting a weekly video up on Facebook and YouTube. But if you want to like reach out to me, Instagram is a great way to do that. I'm on there a lot. So yeah, feel free to reach out and just introduce yourself. I love that. I'm just here like everyone else at home. And so please just reach out to me and send me a message and say hi. And that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll send some links for all of that. And
Okay.
Again, thank you so much for sharing with us. And
You're welcome.
You are a beautiful, wonderful teacher and inspiration to me. So I'm hoping that this wisdom was helpful. There's no way that it couldn't be.
As are you, Karen. You are as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks everybody for watching. Service to the Sacred. We'll be back, and lots of blessings, and thank you, Katie.
Thank you.